Namaste, everybody. Welcome today. We are to our Hindu Pride event. We are very excited to have you all as part of our conversation today. My name is Pushpita Prasad. I'm part of the steering committee of KONA, which is a grassroots advocacy organization focused on improving the understanding of Hinduism in the US and Canada. KONA focuses on raising a collective voice on matters related to the Hindu community by educating the public about Hindu heritage and lived experiences. And talking of lived experiences, it's very cool that today we're going to hear from two proud and passionate Hindus who are also part of the LGBTQ community. June is celebrated as Pride Month. It honors the memory of the Stonewall Uprising in New York in 1969. And today also happens to be Juneteenth. Both sobering reminders of how hard the struggle for equality and acceptance has been and continues to be. Monday is also International Yoga Day. We know a lot of our members and community people are busy with that. So we really appreciate everybody who's taken time to be here. So I want to give a quick introduction of both our panelists. So Lavina is a graduate student, a proud Hindu, public relations associate, and a member of the LGBTQ community. She's passionate about social justice, women's rights, and LGBTQ rights. She runs a popular TikTok account where she shares her love of Sanatan Dharma and its inclusivity. And Aldrin Deepak Ji is based out of San Francisco. He works in a technology company as an IT director and is a longtime resident of San Francisco, where he has raised an adopted son with his partner as well. Aldrin Ji is passionately involved in all Hindu causes, volunteering at the Hindu temple, holding a Diwali festival, and has deep knowledge of Hindu Shastras. So I'm excited to look forward to hearing some of his insights today. So without further ado, I'd love to open it up. And if you guys can just build on that and tell us a little bit about your life journey in a couple of minutes, so we get an understanding of where you are, who you are, and how you came to be where you are today. So Lavina, do we want to start with you?
Yeah, definitely. So I was actually born in a couple other countries. I grew up in Hong Kong. I lived in Dubai, I lived in Warsaw. But then something I noticed when I moved to the US is I've actually never experienced Hinduphobia to the extent that I've seen in the United States, which to me is quite shocking. It's very surprising because when you grow up in Asia, when you grow up elsewhere, people are aware of the fact that Hinduism is incredibly inclusive. It's very open, it's very spiritual, and it's it's a beautiful belief system. Sanatan Dharma is beautiful. But I come here and there's a lot of misunderstandings about Hinduism that I now on my platform want to tackle, because I notice that there's a lot of ignorance and misinformation around Hinduism that I think stems from fear. And I hope to bring to the forward to that Hinduism is accepting of everybody and everyone, your gender, sexuality, nothing matters when it comes to finding moksha. Thank you.
Beautiful. Aldrin Ji.
Namaste, everyone. I just want to start out with a small quick prayer, which is Purnamadam, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. This prayer is very important for me because it says that manifestation is complete, this manifestation is complete. When you divide them or separate the manifestation, it's still complete. So ultimately, we're all the same. And in this, in this prayer, I just want to, start saying about what Hinduism says about all of us and as a community and all of us as individuals. And like Lavina ji was talking about the sheer hate mongering of Hinduism for all kinds of reasons, and one of it being somehow it is against LGBT community is a myth that we want to tackle here. And as we both are sitting here and talking about this, it's just a beginning of a conversation that we have to continue in our communities and beyond our communities.
Wonderful. So before we move on, I just wanted to talk about your own personal journeys to where you are today. So as you grew up, discovered yourselves, was there anything that stands out in your mind, something in your family, in your community, that was either positive or negative on terms of your journey to being who you are today?
So growing up, obviously, because of the way that South Asian culture tends to be, you think that it's going to be anti-LGBT. But when I was discovering myself, actually, one of the most comforting places for me was to speak to one of my friends who is a pundit back in Hong Kong. And I spoke to him and I said to him, like, I don't know what I'm going through. This is really difficult. Like, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to. I've always been very, very connected to Shivaji. I've been very, like, it's just been very difficult. And he sat down, he told me, like, there are so many people in our stories, in our ancient culture, that are like you. And he pointed out all these different stories, the different stories that I keep in my LGBT figures in Hinduism series, that I'm like, wow, like, we're not even taught this. And it's quite fascinating that we are, much like other indigenous belief systems, we have this rich culture of having so much diversity in gender expression and sexuality expression, and just the ways that people are in Hinduism that you don't really see in other belief systems. And I think that it made me feel a lot more comfortable in who I was. And I actually ended up connecting to Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma more as I got older and as I was able to accept who I was.
Beautiful.
Well, in my case, my first experience was that when I was 7 years old. I remember going to a wedding, and I came back from wedding, and I told my grandmother asked me, "Oh, so how was the wedding?" And I said it was wonderful, but in my wedding, I don't see a woman standing next to me, but another man standing next to me. And my grandmother just smiled and she said, "Well, if that's what you want when you grow up, then you marry another man then." And that's basically where it started. And I've always been very much interested in dance, dramas, and theater, and very animated. So I've always been like this. And in my family, I never had any problem of anybody. I mean, of course, they would call me like a little girly. There's nothing wrong with that. That's who I am. And it never bothered me. And all through my life, all my family have been very supportive. Even today, my partner and I went and stayed in India for 6 months with my family. And we shared a bed in that family, and nobody ever questioned what was the problem. And we never talked about it, but nobody ever questioned. And even when we wanted to sell our land in India, my father called me, and we don't have the best of relationship, but my father called me and asked Jean, "Is it okay if we sell the land?" So it's a very varied, I'm sure there are varied experiences, but I want to bring these experiences that Lavina and I have had through our experiences of what we've been through to show that, you can't just measure everybody with the same scale and just assume things about people.
Right. I think the diversity, I always like to say, if there's one thing that can define India or the Hindu experience, is the sheer diversity. It's very hard to make any general statements. If you make it, I can almost guarantee you'll be proven wrong, whatever side of the statement you make. So I think this is actually the perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about. We actually had a few slides to go through, or a video actually, because when I was trying to set up this event, one of the other people I was trying to get was a pundit who has actually done a lot. She has done a lot of LGBTQ marriages, and actually she couldn't attend because she's actually running a yogathon today for International Yoga Day. But she was talking about how she came to do what she's doing right now, and it started with her daughter approaching her to get married to her partner. And she said, let me do some research about it and I'll get back to you. She said, I went and I read the scriptures, I consulted with my gurus in India, and I actually talked to another Pandit who said pretty much the same thing, checked the scriptures, consulted with his guru. And in all cases, they said the scriptures and the gurus basically came back with saying that, there is no problem in this. Marriage is a union of two atmas. That is what Hinduism believes. And atma, if any of us have read the Gita at all, we remember that atma has no shape, no form, no gender, no nothing. So to me, that was a very powerful concept. And I hope we can talk with her at some other time. But I really wanted to cue up the video that Lavina was talking about. Nikunj, I don't know if we can run it, but these are videos that Lavina puts out on her TikTok account, what we have done is we've bundled 3 of them together so the audience gets a sense of the kind of work she does. And then I'd love to just discuss it. So Nikunji, could we roll the video?
Yep, 1 second.
No worries. Zoom and video is always a fun combination.
LGBT figures in Hinduism, Part 1. A manifestation of goddess power, Bahuchara Mata is the goddess of the trans community. Being trans herself, Bahuchara Mata is a symbol of immense strength, and all of her stories about protecting women and the trans community from men. LGBT figures in Hinduism, Part 2. Ardhanishwara is the androgynous composite of Shiva and his wife Parvati. She is considered to be a non-binary representation of a joining of masculine and feminine divine energies. Satguru says the best state is when your divine masculine and feminine energies meet within you. LGBT figures in Hinduism, Part 4. Bhagirath, the hero that was known for bringing down Ganga, was actually born to 2 mothers. Chandra and Mala were married to King Dilapa, who actually died before they conceived children. After Dilapa died, Chandra and Mala turned to each other for love and affection. One of them actually ended up getting pregnant. Though they were both women, they were blessed by Brahma and Kama and told that they were going to have a child. And Brahma named that child Bhagirath. The Kritivasi translation says, Bhage Bhage Sambojje Tate Upagata Brahmadev Twila Nam Bhagirath, which means born of the mutual enjoyment of 2 vulvas, Brahma named him Bhagirath.
That's beautiful. I love your videos. And I'd love for other folks to check them out, anybody who's on TikTok. So Lavina, could you share your TikTok handle with us? And just, I'd love to hear, these are obviously just a sampling, but I'd love to just talk a few minutes about how our ancient stories and figures have so much diversity.
So my TikTok handle is livin.lavina.loka. I actually started getting into this because of the work of Ruth Vanita and Salim Kirwai. They're 2 academics who basically go back into ancient Hindu texts and things like that. And they found that actually during colonialism and a lot of the invasions that happened in India, our texts were actually changed. They were translated in order to fulfill the agenda of the British and whoever wanted to create the narrative they needed to create to basically instill Victorian values in India. So if you look into the work of Ruth Vanita, it's quite fascinating how much of our stories are so deeply accepting of the LGBT community in a way that it was so normal. There is no it's not made into an issue. It's not even it's like saying something you went to the grocery store. It's something so casual, so natural that then a lot of South Asians today actually negate the impact of what invasions did in India to the society's view of the LGBT community. And I think it's so important for us. There's a huge movement to decolonize today. And a lot of us forget that decolonizing means also decolonizing India and decolonizing our mindsets, decolonizing the way that we view the LGBT community. And I hope that this movement actually does reach more people who are Hindu, who are other religions in India, who can then re-examine the way that we view the community. Because I think that if we were to go back to our roots, it's very accepting. Pushpita ji, you're on.
Aldrinji, I know you had a lot to share on this. So you want to build on that?
Well, yes. So, eventually we'll talk about some of the scriptures as well. But when you talk about our scriptures, going all the way from the beginning, like Lavina just talked about Ardhanarishwar. My favorite thing is also about Shiva and go from there. In every aspect of your life, you can do that. And since we are concentrating on LGBT, we know about Brahmanala, and that shows, Arjun was a great warrior, but he learned dance as well, right? So without that, he couldn't have done the Agnatwasa and then become the dance teacher. And he spent 2 years doing that, right? So there are many more stories like that. And he was a Brahmanala. And when you talk about Shikhandi, Shikandi was born as a woman and she was raised as a man. So when she's in the Kurukshetra, there is a talk about what is a gender in Mahabharata. It's in it. So we have to read our scriptures. It's so important. And then there's a question about like what makes a woman, right? And what she acquires to become a man, because she gets married. I don't know if many people know this story or not, but it's a very beautiful story. You should go and look at it. And I mean, the whole conversation is amazing because that's when they're talking about what is the, she gets her linga from a yaksha. And this is a story about, but she was born as a woman. That's what Bhishma says. And there is a conversation about who are you to decide who is that? She is accepting herself as a man and fight him in, this is your dharma to fight. That's it. So these are the things. So we have to be very careful when we look at our shastras and not let somebody else translate for you. Go read it yourself. Even in English, you read it, give it sometimes, put it in your mind, forget it. It will come back and you will realize there is so much more. And I will also talk about a lot of things. Like I come from Karnataka. I know a lot about Karnataka because I grew up there and I studied in my Kannada medium. So there's a lot of literature that I read is from Kannada. And then I can tell you many things about the Karnataka, Uttar Karnataka and border of Maharashtra. We have a goddess named Yellama, who is same as Renuka Devi in Maharashtra, bordering Maharashtra, Karnataka. And she was the mother of Parshurama, right? So there is a long story about her and and then we call our people who live in our Tritiya Prakriti people, we call them, including many of us, we call them Jogapas, and Jogapas have been worshipping this Yellama for 1,000 years. And we have temples to prove that, right? And they are the priests of those temples when you go there.
Right.
So there's a lot more things that are involved in that. So
yeah, I think even for people like me who are, who don't identify necessarily, we forget, and it's always helpful to be reminded. My own personal discovery came a few years ago, very randomly, because that this was the time there was the unisex bathroom controversy was raging in California. Target had just announced unisex bathrooms, and I really didn't have an opinion on it much. I didn't really care much, but there was a lot of passionate articles on both sides of the debate. Coincidentally, I had taken my kids, who were very young at the time, to watch Sagar Manthan, that ancient story of the churning of the ocean. And I had probably not seen the story myself since I was their age. Maybe my parents had taken me for a similar ballet or dance drama. And as part of the story, I was reminded of so many of the nuances, including Vishnu coming as Mohini. And then in the end, Shiva and Mohini coming together as a celestial couple and dancing, and all of creation rejoices with them. And I just had a sort of aha moment. I was like, wow, in the morning I was reading all these articles, hyperventilating about one way or another, and I'm watching a story that is God knows how many thousands of years old. And it, like Lavina said, it's not an issue. Nobody made a big deal about, okay, now we're going to be, assuming our LGBTQ identity. It was just a natural part of the story, and not one that anybody had pointed out to me in all the decades that I had been aware of the story. It was just what is. It was just presented as, here's the story. The important part is all the different things that happen in the story. And then in the end, everyone celebrates. So that was a wonderful eye-opening event for myself. And, I just became much more involved in the topic. Did you have something?
One thing to add to that, your story, Harihara Putra is Ayyappa. So
yes, I found that later.
Shiva's son is Ayyappa. There are many more like that. Chandra, the moon, and the Buddha had children, and they were cursed to only have children without gender. And if you look at we will look at it later, but this is a parampara, right? It is much more than just oral thing. It's a parampara that has drawn. Parampara is almost a stream that keep running. It never stops. So this parampara is so important for us that we have to constantly keep on reiterating it, orally say that to people, and interpret as time goes by according to what is necessary for the Kala Desha Patra, which means time, the place, and the identity that you have.
The thing is too, when it comes to finding moksha, we forget that the female energy is Kundalini, the male energy is the Shiva. So, and we have to both have it. We all both have it. So when it comes to like looking into the LGBT history of Hinduism, there's Ila, Shikandi, Mohini, Ardhanishwara, Dayus and Prithvi, Bahuchara Mata, Agni Soma, like so many examples that at this point, it's not an anomaly, it's natural, it's normal, and it's deeply ingrained in the way that our religion is accepting of everybody.
Right. And I think that's also, I know Aldrinji had some slides, I'm going to switch to them in a second, but it's not, a lot of us are like, okay, that's ancient history, right? What about today? Well, surprisingly, if you start to, again, if you do just a Google search, most of us will find that because our whole culture comes from such a place where this was not an issue, as we have been saying, as the colonial influence is hopefully ebbing, as some of the most egregious colonial laws are being abolished, we're starting to see this resurgence come about again, in some cases with a lot of trial and tribulations, but in some cases also, it's just happening. And I'm going to share Aldrinji's slides now, because there were a few figures he wanted to talk about. So Aldrinji, do you want to take us through this?
Yes. So just as we keep talking about this parampara, before the two invasions of two different kinds, before that, we used to have akhada. Apparently, there were 23 or 24 akhadas, but right now there's only 12. And we can see that we are regaining our strength and our traditions very quickly. The picture that you're seeing here on the slide is of a picture of a person named Narayana Tripathi, Lakshmi Narayana Tripathi. She is now the Mahamandaleshwar, which is the highest level of a religious leader in her Akkad. Akkad is one tradition. So there are 12 traditions of others, and she's the 13th tradition, which is called Kinnara. Kinnaras are transgenders, and they used to be part of our Akkads. And our Akkad, the Kinnareshwars were the first ones to go in a battle to defend Dharma if there was ever Dharma attack. So she is now the Mahamandaleshwar of that Kinnar Akkad. So we are slowly gaining our momentum, and there was discussions on how this is going to work out in the 12 other Akkads, but now there is no problem. You can see she's going in Ganga in the Kumbh Mela, and she's
first day.
Sariji?
I just said on the bathing day, which is the big thing.
On the bathing day, yes.
Yeah.
The most holy day.
It's almost the equivalent of a transgender bishop, if such a person existed, showing up at the international gathering of the Catholic Church. I mean, that would be, if that ever happened, we would have, it would have been blanket news for about a year. But since it happened in Hinduism, it was news definitely, but for a couple of months, and then we just moved on. So it's interesting.
Yeah,
and
most of the video, most of the things are not shown in the West. So most people who are so anti, Dharma, will not know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then this is the, like I said, I'm from Karnataka. So most of the things that I'm going to show you on sari is going to be from Karnataka, but that's not necessarily only limited to Karnataka. There are other stories I'll tell you, but this is one of the first transgender marriage that was recognized 2 years ago, I think 3 years ago, I think just 2018. She's an activist in Karnataka, and her first marriage was recognized in India. And you also know India has a third gender a section option on the passport now. So we are moving towards progress, and we're reclaiming, not progress, we're reclaiming our parampara. That's what we're doing. And this is my favorite, because when I was very young, I used to listen to Jogamas, and Jogamas have this, I get very emotional here because this is very important to me, because most of the Jogamas come from lower, downtrodden people. And this story of this lady is wonderful, because she went through so much to be where she is today. But I'm very proud of her, because she, basically her parents did not know what to do with her. She comes from a very poor family. And eventually they took her to doctors. In those days, even let me tell you, when I went to 1992 to India, I was getting a health check. And one of the psychologists came and told me that she can cure me. So remember, this is all the Western educated people. This is coming from West, not from the East. This is the Western psychologist telling me that she can cure me. But this woman was taken to a Pandit after taken to the doctor. And that's why I left that little text there. And the Pandit told her, this is her nature. Shakti is in her. So don't leave her alone, let her be. And that's our Dharma. That Pandit told her, do not worry. This is our Dharma saying, do not worry. She has Shakti inside her. Let her live her life. And this is why it is so important for me, because I was once told the same thing by a person and say, oh, you can be cured without even understanding. It has nothing to do with her. You know, like it's me. I want to be me. And that's why. And now today she she's the president of the Janapada Samiti, which is a government-sponsored folk culture promotion in Karnataka state.
That's so powerful.
And these are some people that are in our, like now, because we were talking about, I'm sorry, the contemporary people. There's a prince over there, and I'm sure most of the people know about Abhijit, and one of you is an actress, and the other one is a managing director at VIP company. These are the few ones that I wanted to show you, but there are a lot more people that are in our society doing great things with LGBT, fighting for the rights. And it's like when I tell you fighting for the rights, most of the time it is us fighting our own constitution, which is supposed to give us all the rights as everybody. These are not the people who are going in temple and fighting, which is what we repeatedly see all the time. And in this time, I would like to tell you, like, I've been to Shiva Vishnu temple in Livermore right here. I've been, I also come from a Dalit class. So I've been to a temple, and I went and I said, can I volunteer? Nobody ever asked me oh, you're gay, oh, are you Dalit? I was given, I gathered all the puja samagris for the temple. I was even allowed to decorate the Visarjana Vigraha. And I participated. One of my friends, he's a Filipino, and he's very much into Dharma. We both went there. They didn't ask him, they didn't ask me. We both were in, and we felt so good. And it was an amazing experience. So this is the one thing that you have to pay attention to. Go to your dharmic places, you know, not even if you don't believe, just go there, just get the atmosphere, just learn something that is not taught outside. This is the only way that we can self-experience. See, in our dharma, pratyaksha dharma, right? Pratyaksha pramana is more important than shabda pramana. The shabda pramana is one of the last one that we look at, right? Pratyaksha pramana, the self-experience is the most important. So please, please, please go and experience this.
That is so important because, you know, nowadays for the past few years, I work in the marketing industry. Experiential marketing was all the trend. And that, you know, Hinduism is in a lot of ways an experienced form of faith. You have to live it and try it for yourself. So yes, absolutely. Everybody should go out and discover things for themselves versus just regurgitating the sound bites that they hear. So I know you wanted to talk about the temples. Maybe you already did because
yes.
So we can
kind of. I just want to quickly go over. The one on the left is about 500 years old. The one on the right is about 600 years old. And there's another temple that you'll see at the end that's about 1,000 years old. That was built by my king, Vishnuvardhana. And it's just a beautiful temple. And I am so proud of it. And my queen, I don't know if you have seen my profile. If you see my profile, all the statues that is from Belur temples was modeled from my queen Shantala. So everything from the statue that you see on my profile is a hunter woman standing, and you see the jewelry that she's wearing and the jewelry Mahalakshmi is wearing is the same. And she is depicted in 3 feet statue. She's called Shilabalika in front of the temple. So we had no problem. And then she has a dead animal hanging over her shoulder. So I just want you all to know, go and experience these things. Next time when you go to the temples, look at the pictures. It'll tell you thousand words. It'll tell you there is nothing that we talk about today. It exists when you go and stand in front of it.
Sorry, we're all getting a little emotional. That's okay. But I think going back to what we were talking about, I think we wanted to address, why is it that we hear all these horrible things, right? Manusmriti is thrown at our face all the time. And I think Aldrinji, with his knowledge of the Shastras, was very passionate and wanted to bring out how he completely disagrees with the prevailing narrative. So do you want to talk us through the slide?
Yes, I just want you to just put this in context, okay? This was written 3,000 years ago, right? When in Europe, Western Europe, people were wearing uncured leather as clothes and running around and killing each other. This was written, so just put this in perspective and to see how our ancestors thought of all these things. It says, I'm gonna read it in English because it'll be easier for you to understand if you don't know Sanskrit, but it says, a twice-born man who has sex with a man or has sex with a woman, right? It says either or in an ox cart. So, public sexual experience that we have had. What is the worst thing that can happen to you? Is go take a bath. So you're clean enough when you go and serve the other people. Just be clean. It's important you're clean so you're not going to spread any diseases if at all you're going and doing such thing with certain kind of people. Clean up yourself. And you know what is the worst punishment with a sexual kind that is given in Manusmriti? Please, I know you people don't read these things. Even if you can read it in English, go and just read it once. I know you don't have time, but if I can inspire one person to go on read Manusmriti one time, I would really be happy. But in Manusmriti, it says, if somebody has sex with a virgin, then their hand, a finger will be cut off. Do you know why? In those days, men and women used to get married very young. When you say virgin, it usually means a young girl.
Very young girl who's not of age.
It is it was against pedophilia, but it will not see those kind of things for sexual. If there are some verses that says about adultery, but that's a different story that we can discuss later. But please go and take a look at this. It's important.
And I think you wanted to talk about the third nature.
Yes. And again, let's put this in context. This is the time when we were writing this. In Bible, it used to say, I'm sorry, I have to quote it because I want to give us some context. In Bible says, if a man lies with another man as he lies with another woman, it's an abomination, he should be put to death. Do you know what that means? If a man has sex with another man, like he has sex with a woman, it's an abomination and he should be put to death. That's what it says in Bible when this was written. This one is saying, look how broad the mind is. This one, it says, when there is a male seed stronger, a male is born, female seed stronger, female is born, but when both of them are combined, then there is a twin, girl and boy, twin are born, which is the Tritiya Prakriti, that's what it is called. So it doesn't matter you want to use this today or not, but this is the context that was given 3,000 years ago when the psychological department was telling you 30 years ago that you have something wrong with you. This does not say anything wrong with you. Then you have another nature. That's what it says here. So I really want you guys to please, if somebody comes and talks to you about Manusmriti, nobody uses this like Pushpita ji and we were talking about it. Nobody, at 1.1 billion people that I know, nobody's house has Manusmriti. Everybody has Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, but I've never seen anybody call, oh, in my house, I have a Manusmriti. No, but if anybody brings that up, please read up a little bit more so you can go back and talk about this.
Right. And so I think we actually, just a quick plug, tomorrow, we actually have a whole discussion on Manusmriti for those who wish to dig into it. But also before we move off from the Manusmriti, it's important to remember that the difference between a Smriti and a Shruti. So the Manusmriti, the name itself means it's coming with a built-in expiry date. These are not the 10 commandments that are valid forever. It was a book of law that was valid for a period of time, not really sure when. Using it in contemporary Hindu society is about as useful as, maybe quoting the Code of Hammurabi or something like that. So anyways, so coming back to the modern day, I just wanted to talk about, so given all this context, we've seen, as you guys already referenced, we've seen that despite the history that we come from, despite the truth that we come from, there is blatant misrepresentation of what Hinduism is and stands for. So actually, Lavina, I'd love to start with you, because I think you mentioned, it was a very powerful statement you made, that you've lived in 4 countries and you've not experienced Hinduphobia the overt Hinduphobia that you've experienced in the US. And you have a very visible online presence. So you're obviously sometimes caught up in the thick of the battle. So just talk to us about that a little bit. How's that experience been?
So something I've actually had to do is place comment filters on my videos because of the blatant Hinduphobia that I've gotten. People will assume, oh, like, you know, the people who must be against your videos bringing up the inclusivity of Hinduism and LGBT acceptance of Hinduism is conservative Hindus. But surprisingly enough, I've actually gotten support from conservative Hindus. Like, in extremely conservative Hindus have been very supportive. Whereas like there's a lot of just misunderstanding, and a lot of people like to use the term Hindumisia when they talk about Hindu hate, but I really do think it's Hinduphobia, because a lot of this hate and this discomfort that comes with Hinduism is the fact that Sanatan Dharma is not easy to define. It's vast. There's so many schools of thought. There's so many different ways of being a part of Sanatan Dharma. There's so many different practices, so many different views, so many different ways of accepting Sanatan Dharma that you cannot understand it. People who study Sanatan Dharma, study Sanskrit their whole life, can still not get through all of it. And I've been trying, and I'm not even close. So I think a lot of the hate that comes towards Sanatan Dharma, especially in the US, comes from a place of almost fear. We don't have one book that everybody has to follow. We don't have one dogma everybody has to follow. We have our own path that we find. And the most beautiful thing I think about Sanatan Dharma is we tell everyone, we don't even think your path is wrong. If you are part of another religion, if you're an atheist, whatever you are, there's different routes to moksha. And if you are a part of another religion, there's a reason for it. In this lifetime, there's a reason for it. Next lifetime, you learn lessons. Everybody's learning, but you have your own path to moksha, which is quite different than most belief systems. And I think that this hate and this discomfort comes from recognizing the fact that you cannot easily put us in a box. And I think in the world today, people like to put people in boxes. They like to say, okay, straight, gay, this, that, Christian, there's like a box, atheist, whereas like a lot of spirituality, a lot of, especially dharmic religions, you can't really do that with us. And I think that's where all this hate stems from. And I wish people would just be more open to just respecting each other. It doesn't matter what your belief system is. And I think that it's quite scary to me that the US is where I've seen the most Hinduphobia and the most organizations that actively come out for Hinduism, which it makes zero sense to me, because if you look at our history, we are one of the only religions that have never had crusades. We've never forced converted people. Like, it's just crazy to me that there is this hate when it doesn't.
And I think the desire to put labels, right? Like you said, what did you say you were called? A homo nationalist? That was new to me. I thought I was up to date on all of them, but that was new to me.
I have had, so being a proud Hindu is something that I've actually, so I'm a lot younger. I'm a young person who's proud Hindu. And something I've noticed is that we're almost not allowed to be proud Hindus anymore. And people love to, and I think the most interesting thing to me is it is a clear sign of bigotry for any other religion if you basically associate them as being an agent for a government because they're of that religion. And this is accepted. Any other religion in the world, you are not allowed to do that. It is called bigotry. But for Hindus, for some reason, that goes out of the window. And so often, for being a proud Hindu and for wanting to clear up these misconceptions about Hinduism, I get attacked by these organizations. And the most insane label is homo nationalist. And their idea is that you hide behind your homosexual nature to be a national. It makes it, to me, it's homophobic. I'm like, if you are a leftist organization who claims to be pro-LGBT, and then you're going to go label people as a homo nationalist, that's bigotry. That's quite homophobic, actually.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's really sad.
One thing that you said, Lavina ji, that you have so much, it's like an ocean, the the whole tradition of Hinduism. And then it says, Vignatam, 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 Avignatam. So the one who says, I know, does not know. The one who says, I don't know, knows. This is because, like as Sadhguruji says, he says, the one, when you say that this is it, you're limiting yourself. When you say, I don't know, the entire possibility opens up and you go, that's another way of seeing it. And that's what is Sanatana Dharma. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't think we'll ever know so much about it because it's just too much.
Right. And I think as we were talking, I think how do we help others in our community recognize the blatant misrepresentation of Hindu beliefs that is so omnipresent in education, in media, and even in popular culture? I mean, I'll just throw out an anecdote, and Lavina ji and I were talking about this, that, we were both fans of this Amazon web series that came out in 2019 called Made in Heaven. It's really popular. I think it's one of the highly ranked ones. And, it was all fine and good. It talks about this lady who's an event planner and does all these very dramatic weddings. But suddenly, as a subplot, they brought in the whole discussion around the removal of Article 377 in India. And this now, mind you, this series came out in 2019 and the court decision was 2018. So they are literally talking about facts that are a year old, 1 year old. We're not talking, we're not talking Manusmriti, we're not talking ancient history, we're not even talking 40 years ago. We're literally talking a year ago. And this series goes on to basically blame, there's a character who's gay and he's being persecuted, and then he files a lawsuit, which is, the precursor to the 377 issue. And who comes and disrupts him? It's members of the saffron party wearing saffron scarves around their neck, which is a blatant misrepresentation of facts, because the government, the so-called Hindu nationalist government, was not party to that dispute at all. They had said that, they had withdrawn, unlike the non-Hindu nationalist governments, which had been part of the earlier rounds of lawsuits. So the Hindu nationalist government had stayed out of the discussion, saying, let the courts decide. And the opposition, interestingly enough, was led by two lawyers, both of whom were representing different Christian groups within India. Yet to blatantly do a 360-degree lie and say that the opposition was coming from a saffron party. What do you guys do in the face of just flat out lies?
I mean, forget the government aspect, but even in the episode, they had news people interviewing people, and they had people in clear Hindu garments being anti-LGBT. And to me, that's crazy, because if you look at the most recent court decision to ban conversion therapy, the support is coming from Hindus, which is just, I don't know. I think the most important thing is that growing up in America, I've noticed a lot of my friends who grew up here, they talk about this anti-Hindu sentiment is just drilled into them from childhood to the point where they're almost ashamed of being Hindu. And I think that that's something we really need to tackle, going all the way down to temples, Hindu events. Down there, kids should know that it's okay. You should be proud of being Hindu. And growing up Sindhi, learning about my heritage, learning about the fact that Sindhis actually are one of the largest displaced groups in history. And people don't know this. We were displaced from Sindh after partition because we were Hindu. Basically, it was you convert or you die. So over 70,000 of us were gone. And so growing up and relearning my heritage, relearning where I'm from, I'm so proud of being Hindu because we fought for it. We fought for who we are, and we're still able to keep those traditions. And you look into history, we fought the Mughals, we fought the British, we fought we fought till today, missionaries coming into India, taking advantage of poor societies and then converting them. And I think that it's so important for us to be proud of our heritage, because here is an indigenous belief system that people don't understand, that is so complex, and we're keeping it alive. And it's us doing it. And I think that these words of people who are anti-Hindu, we should really be fighting them more, because Hindus we're very peaceful people, but now it's come to a point where we have to start fighting back. We can't be quiet anymore. We can't let it go anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there that you said. I mean, I don't know if I can match that one, but I'll say, ahimso parama dharma, dharma himsa tathaivacha. It is, we are peaceful, we should be non-violent, but to protect dharma, we have to dharma rakshati rakshita. Dharma will protect the one that protects the dharma. Without you, there is no dharma left. Because we are this, we have to protect that. So it is very important that we do become, we don't need Shastra today, but Shastra is our Shastra. So we need to practice that, number one. Number two is, the whole thing, the way that we talk about them attacking us, they don't really care. They know this hurts us, that's why they do it. Their agenda is to just discredit you and move on. Right? Because I will tell you a very quick a Turkish proverb. It says, like, the sheep always is afraid of the wolf. Mm-hmm. But do you know who eats all that 100% of the sheep? The shepherd. Do you see? Because that's what they want. They want you to become the sheep and run to them because they will show you a wolf. Look, the wolf. He's the wolf. He's going to eat you. Like, even if we let the sheep in the wild, maybe 1 out of 100 sheep will be eaten. But with the shepherd, that 100 sheep. See, these are the shepherds, and they've been doing that for so long. But we have to show our brothers and sisters, recognize the shepherd. You don't need to be with the shepherd. The only reason he's feeding you is he can get you fat enough to sacrifice you when the day comes. So we need to tell them, you need to cultivate, just like you, Lavinaji. You had to go look for it. And when you said about your Sindhis, our name comes from your place. Mm-hmm. India, Sindh, we come from you. The civilization, you're like epitome of our civilization. And today we don't have Sindh with us. You see? And that's the thing. And you went looking for it. And I encourage all of you, go look for your roots. Go look, and you will find so much courage in you. You can stand up and answer anybody you want to. And that's what we have to do. That's the only way we can do it. Because when they ask you something, this is what I tell them. This is one example I'll give you and I'll stop. When somebody asks you why you don't eat beef, I ask them why you don't eat dal. If they can give answer to that, then they will understand why I don't eat beef. I don't need to answer. So you need to understand yourself first so you can question the other. As long as you keep on answering them, they will always be questioning you. You need to put them on the hot seat and say, why you don't eat dal?
Ranji, one of the biggest things also that you were sharing with us is that, like, your identity as a Dalit and your ability to be a proud Hindu is something that people use against you a lot. And I think that that's one of the hardest parts about the Hinduphobic discourse, is that they forget that lower caste people are still proud Hindus. And to try to negate your own identity, I feel like it's like, even me being Sindhi taken from me because they're like, oh, you're Indian. How are you Sindhi anymore? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm Sindhi. That's my heart. That's who I am. And being a proud Hindu is a part of that. Like, you can't take that away from me.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite things to remember, and especially for younger Hindus, is that there's the story of Shiva. And Shiva is peaceful. He's meditating. But when Shiva becomes Rudra, that's when we fight back. That's when we stand up. That's when we become strong. And it's not violence. It's just learning and having the energy and the strength to stand up for ourselves and to learn and to have that knowledge to become Rudra.
Yes. See, Tandava should happen inside, but Shakti should show up on the outside. You see? Because you cannot question Shakti. Tandava, you can ask, why are you dancing? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? That's easy to question. But when the Shakti shows up, that force cannot be defeated. So that's what, like my little thing is, please volunteer with Kona, just contribute anything. I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this one more thing and I'll promise I'll stop. There's this crow, it goes and it looks for water and it cannot find it, and then it finds a little water inside a big pot, and it doesn't know how to get it, and it starts putting a little stone after a little stone, and eventually the water rises and he drinks it. Your little stones matter. Put your little stone in our pot and it will get better. And then we will educate people. We'll do more of this. And every one of you who are listening to this, you all have something to contribute. Please join us and contribute something every day.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the questions that came in from the audience. That I'm a Hindu, second generation Indian American LGBTQ. I have noticed that over the years, the most racism I have experienced has been from American cis gays, and Hinduphobia from Indian origin gays. This interacts both social interactions and community activism. How do we respond in an effective, organized manner? And I think Aldrin G mentioned a lot of that. I would just make a plug for coming together as a community. There is power in numbers. And every individual who is willing to make a difference can find support from community organizations like Kona and others and really make a difference. I mean, one of the things that the last 2 years has shown us is the power of the grassroots, especially in the US. And so it's sort of been used against us. It's time for us as a community, as individuals, to harness the power of the grassroots in our favor. And unfortunately, that only comes by, not being on the sidelines. You have to get up, get involved, and try to make a difference. It's not a comfortable process, but it's important.
I will say also to that question that I have noticed actually this Hinduphobia within the LGBT community. I've even dated people who have asked me extremely ignorant questions without even realizing that they're extremely ignorant. But one of the biggest things that I've started doing in terms of the LGBT community is that, so one thing I'll do is if I go to LGBT events, I'm always wearing an Om. I start representing Hinduism. I start creating a space for Hinduism in the LGBT community. We have a queer Desi group, a friend group, and we're going to start wearing saris to Pride events. We start carrying these Hindu symbols to Pride spaces to almost normalize who we are, because for so long, as immigrants in America, people are taught you have to assimilate, and to assimilate, you hide who you are, and you hide, and that removes you from the discourse, that removes you from being a representative in the LGBT community as a Hindu. And I think that's wrong. We got to start showing people like we exist, we are Hindu, we're here for Pride, and it's normal. And we're a part of this. And people need to, when they think of Hindus, they think of this like weird entity out there, but they have to realize we're everyday people and we're here and we're queer. Get used to it.
Yeah. And this is funny because you said that. That's so awesome. I'm so happy that you're there, and to young people like you are doing this thing. This is so important. In 97, when we did our first Pride, I bought those plastic figurines of all the gods and goddesses, and I put it all over our float. And I wanted to make sure that they see it. You are not going to tell me what I can and I can't have it. And we were all dressed in our garbs, whatever, and we represented all part of India. And we also had all the South Asia together as one in that Pride Parade in 97. Then it became corporate and I didn't go. There is, you're absolutely right. This happened in 97, it was not that bad. But once these tech people started coming to America, this got worse, because then we used to have Diwali party with Trikon. Trikon was the South Asian gay lesbian organization. We used to have Diwali party. We used to do Lakshmi Puja during that. But right after 2002, everything stopped, and I stopped going because they did not want anything to do with religion. I'm like, how can you separate one from another? I'm not telling you, you have to come and join me, but we can do it. Trikon can sponsor a Diwali because this is Diwali. They would do other two, but not Hindu festival. And this is why I couldn't take it anymore. I just left, because for me, I mean, my husband's family come all the way from Belgium to celebrate Diwali with me. And these people are telling me that I cannot do it. How dare you? Who are you? So these are the problems, and we have to get this mad. I'm sorry. You need to show this emotion. This is important, because you can't let them just keep on questioning you or telling you who you are. You have to respond, and you have a very stern and assertive response to these people.
I think that is so important, getting mad, like they say, change never comes from calm people. But I think also, Kalavina mentioned being part of an indigenous faith. And I think it's very important to realize that members of indigenous faiths are not to sound conspiracy theory or anything, but we live in a world that is not accepting of indigenous faiths, even today. And actually, Article 377, which we talked about, and the current situation around gay rights is the perfect example, because about 150, 200 years ago, indigenous people or Indian civilization was civilized because the prevailing Western more at the time said that LGBTQ was a horrible thing and people needed to be civilized. Hence, the British, who were driven by very prudish Victorian morality, tried to civilize India by putting Article 377 in place. And it's ironic that it takes us so long to get rid of it and to reclaim where we were. But I think acts like that should make us wary of attempts to civilize us today, because just like 200 years ago, we were being civilized by outlawing LGBTQ, we should ponder what is being outlawed today in the name of civilization. And it's not even India or Hindu specific. I live in California, where last year we had some of the most horrific wildfires, which got me reading up about this issue. And I discovered that, very similar to India, in 1850, when the state of California was kind of coming together as a legal entity, it passed a law or an act that basically was the act of government and protection of Indians, which outlawed traditional Native American practices of controlled fires and forest burns, which is part of the natural cycle here. The result was 100 years of forest fuel building up. And we are seeing the explosive fires that are happening now. So it was, again, an attempt to civilize based on what the prevailing thinking was then. Outlawing gays was an attempt to civilize, and there are lots of attempts to civilize being made today. So my throw out to everybody today who sort of jumps on a social justice bandwagon is, do stop and think, what are the consequences and why this practice may have existed before you jump on the social justice bandwagon. I don't know if you guys have seen anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that, I mean, repeatedly, this has been done from Sweden all the way to Australia, right? It's not like a hidden thing. I mean, there are Sami people in Sweden, their children were taken away and they were not allowed to speak their native tongue. Same thing happened here, right? What is the whole point of, that's why I keep telling people, I'm so lucky. I mean, all that, my entire life, all the struggles that I went through, it's Parashiva's great grace on me. Because learning in my own language, seeing my own people in the rural areas gave me so much. I mean, I learned so much from them about our own selves and how to stand up for ourselves. So, and this is what they want to cut from you, right? Because the more they brainwash you with their thing, because see, they need useful idiots. Karl Marx said that a long time ago, they need useful idiots to do their dirty job. And that's what you use. And that's what you call these woke people. It's okay, but we need to be able to stand up and say, no, this is no longer accepted. People call me Sangi. I said, yeah, I would rather be Sangi than Gulam, because Sangi, I wholeheartedly give my heart to somebody, right? You are a Gulam because you're forced to think certain way. Because if you can't think that way, then you're not a person of any, because see, this is the same binary Abrahamic faith that transferred over to Marxism. There is no difference. If you don't think like me, you go to hell. They're sending us to hell. Every time we don't accept their way of thinking, they send us to hell. So, but we have to know how to counter this. And we've been doing this, so that's what is called Purva Paksha. If you don't understand them, we will never defeat them. So let's understand them. Let's see what triggers them. Because the only thing that they keep on asking us this far is questions. But we never ask them questions. Let's come up with questions to ask them. Let them answer us. We don't want to answer. We don't have anything to answer because, like I said, the parampara has been a stream that flowing. We didn't come up with one night and say, let's sit down in a college where you're removed 1,000 miles from the people that are downtrodden, but let's talk about it, write about it. No, this has happened in, and you know, like Lavinaji, you talked about like Dalit, me being Dalit, and we had this other talk where we talked about Shankaracharya, right? He debated with Vandana Mishra, but he washed the feet of a Chandala, you know, the guy who works in the crematorium. He washed the leg of the feet of the Chandala, and he wrote a shloka for that guy because he enlightened him. So we never see in this, you know, this all thing. And we also had a conversation about the dark ones are all the Dalits, and we were talking about like, that has nothing to do with the color. My cousin named her literally, I don't know if anybody here speak Kannada, her name is Kempama because she's so light skinned, they call her Kempama because she's so loud. But, you know, and she's my cousin, and we have all kind of variety of colors in my family, and they're all Dalits. So all of these things, when it happens, we need to have a quick back and say, oh, really? How many? And, you know, that's what I ask now. And until now, that's what another thing I was going to tell you, until this whole thing started with the California, until I read the Cisco case, I never in my entire life ever have to tell people that I'm Dalit. It was unnecessary. No Hindu ever asked me if I was what caste you are. None ever. But I came out as Dalit, and it was forced out of me because I thought this is wrong. This is adharma, and we need to bring us back to dharma. And this is why I came out.
It's really unfortunate when state actors or non-religious actors are forcing you to rethink who you are, your identity.
Yes.
That's really
How
unfortunate.
dare they? They told me I cannot be gay. Yeah.
Right.
Now they're telling me, oh, you're Dalit, so let me be the shepherd. You are not my shepherd. I'm not a sheep. I will never be a sheep.
The colorism argument, again, if somebody just applied a minute of logic, would see how silly it was, since Krishna, who is Vishnu is one of the most popular deities, is the dark one. Krishna is the dark one. Kali is the black one. So to ascribe colorism to Hinduism, again, you can only do it if you just set logic aside, which unfortunately a lot of people are doing these days.
Like Vyasamuni, who divided the Vedas, his name is Krishna Dvaipayana. Krishna, his name is Krishna, the dark one. The dark one, he is Krishna. And we adore Krishna. That's why everybody gets, I don't know, probably in this one session that we have, there are two Krishnas there, So we're not like running away from Krishna. My aunt called me at home. She was as dark as me. She would call me Kariya, because Kariya literally means the black one. But I never took it wrongly. And I adored my aunt. You know what I mean? And she called her other sons who were darker to Kanna. Kanna is Krishna, right? So
let's take a couple of other questions that came in, and I think we need to wrap up. I don't know if anybody has information on this, but one of our is talking about, can you please talk about the transgender community festival in India? I think they worship Vishnu in Mohini form or Arjuna in his Brinhala form. Do either of you know about it?
Well, that's the one that I told you about, Yalama, okay. The Jogapas, that's the transsexual. See, in India, we have to be very careful when we talk about India, because every different place has their own story, right? That's why we have so many Ramayanas. We have and it is the most wonderful thing. And then I don't want people to get confused, because if you go to Tamil Nadu, Araivan is seen as their husband, and they go and they have this huge festival where all the transgender wants to go and marry Araivan, because the story behind Araivan is he was Arjuna's son, I believe, and he was sent to the battlefield to be killed. So he was not married. So he asked Krishna, can I get married to somebody? And this is the whole story. So there is a difference. Like Yalama, the Jogapa story is very different, because Renuka Devi is the mother of Parashurama, and her husband get very upset at her because something happens, and that's the stories. But ultimately, everybody has their own story based on their needs of that local area. So there are many, many different stories. So I don't want just to give one story and not talk about other people. That's why I say, whenever I tell you a story, I say, I'm from Karnataka. That's why I tell you this. But you go from Karnataka all the way to Kashmir, there's all kinds of people celebrate these kind of things. So this is not like specific to us, right?
Going off stories too, like if we look at gender and LGBT and we look at Ras, Krishna Ras, historically men would dress up and be gopis. They would embody gopis who are women, because gender was never a solidified thing in Hinduism. It's always been like you were gopis because you wanted to be a gopi to perform Ras. And I think that that's like our festivals. And there's another, a lot of, especially the indigenous groups in India, they're celebrating Hinduism in a very historically accurate way. Like we've held on to these traditions. And I think with Hinduphobia, and the same thing with homophobia, there is an aspect of shame. And there's an aspect of shame put onto you so that you feel like you can't be who you are. So to be a young LGBT Hindu is almost harder in the West, because you're not only being hit with homophobia, but you're being hit with Hinduphobia. And that's why, like, I and a lot of my other Hindu friends who are LGBT have started like actively wearing Hindu symbols to LGBT events, because we're like, we're going to stand here. We're going to show you who we are. If you don't accept us, you're honestly being a little hypocritical, because
Yes.
as a community, we're all about acceptance, and let's re-examine that. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, and the point to what you said about the men playing the women's role today in Yakshagana, even today, men play women's role. And when the Devi comes over, Devi does not only come over women, it also comes over men. But I urge you, please do not discard things about Hinduism, Dharma as some kind of superstition, because that's what they want you to do. Please go and explore and experience it. Because there are places I have been in Karnataka that they do these things. For the outward look, it looks so strange. But spend some time, talk to the purohits, pandits, pujaris who know. You will have tremendous amount of knowledge comes out of it. These people have organically grown up in those cultures to protect their community. That's why dharma, dharayeti dharma. Dharma is the one that which holds everything together is dharma. And that's what these things are. And let's not discount, don't be ashamed because somebody comes and say, oh my God, you guys do this. Oh my God, yeah, well, I don't do that, but other people do, but there is a reason they do that. You know, when they do kavadi, I don't like kavadi. I don't want to go and do kavadi, but I have so much respect for these people. I don't know why they do it. But if I'm interested, it's my responsibility to go learn about it. Then you talk about it. Don't look at something and just be like, and in our Dharma, it says that one who looks at the dog eater, and everything else around as the same is the one who is Brahman. So you want to become a wise one, you have to see everything in as it exists. Satyam, right? The existence itself. If you don't want to do that, you will be ignorant, just like the other people, and you will make ignorant comments just like the other people, and you will feel ashamed. You don't have to. You have such a diversity. It's like a lotus. There are so many petals. Enjoy all of them. If you don't want to look at one, there's 8 more that can cover that one. You don't have to look at that petal. It'll be hidden. Don't worry about it. So if you don't know, just say, I don't know. Just because somebody said, oh my God, that's weird, doesn't mean it's weird. It's not. You have to go and experience and understand it. That's important. Sorry.
And I think that is interesting that we even have to make that plea in the current environment when diversity and inclusion is such a big thing. You'd think people would naturally open themselves to trying to understand why certain groups or people may worship in different ways, may have practices that sound weird or different or not readily understandable, but it is unfortunately where we are. Anyways, I think we are way over time. This conversation could go on forever, and I'm a little emotional today. I think this was a very fabulous conversation. I thank you all for opening up and sharing so much personal information about yourself. It can't be easy, but thank you so much. And I think Aldrin ji is my inspiration to go become more knowledgeable on the Shastras. So I will just end with a closing namaste. Thank you.
Namaste, everyone.